Hey everyone, welcome back to Reboot, GameSpot's opinion editorial show. I'm your host, Mike Mahardy, here with
Jake Dekker. How's it going?
Good. Last week we put up an episode after that crazy October 27th. We had to pick one game to focus on, and you and I are both big Wolfenstein fans. And, Mario and Assassin's Creed are not going anywhere, so we decided to focus on Wolfenstein 2. And after playing through it, we both, I think, shared the sentiment that not only is it a great shooter, but it is a great sequel in pretty much every sense of the word. So that's what we decided to focus on. You had not finished it by the time I wrote this script, I think, but you have now. So before we get into the Q&A, this is our off-week episode, so we're going to get into the questions and comments. What did you think of Wolfenstein 2 overall?
Once again, I'll avoid spoilers, but I think after I had played the game, the first thing I did was watch the rest of Reboot, because I only edited half of it, and then went into the second half. But, I mean, basically, I just mimic everything you said. I think it's a phenomenal sequel. I think the way it builds on what they created with the first one, and the fact that they didn't try too many different things. They kind of just focused on what made the first one great and turned everything else up to 11 in order to deliver a kick-ass sequel.
Again, if you haven't watched that episode last week, it's mainly spoiler-free. The second half does have some minor spoilers if you want to go in completely fresh. But if you finish the game, go watch it. It was episode 17, and this is 17.5, I believe. But as always, we're going to get into some questions and comments about Bethesda, the future of single-player games, and how Wolfenstein and Prey and Bethesda's games are selling in general. So here's the first comment on YouTube from the Arcane Realm. Bethesda has honestly, Creation Club aside, kicked ass this year in their published titles department. Prey, Dishonored, Death of the Outsider, The Evil Within 2, and Wolfenstein 2 are fantastic games, and they're all single-player only with no microtransactions to boot. I heavily agree with that. I think Bethesda, as a publisher, it's my favorite portfolio. I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised to find out that they're definitely not doing as well as like Activision or EA, because they don't use microtransactions. They don't just, shove in features for the sake of it to get multiplayer in and loot crates in general. We could, throughout this episode, like in a few minutes, we'll probably talk more about the future of single-player games, especially with the closing of EA Visceral lately. I think EA is kind of the antithesis to this. They said they needed to pivot the game because it wasn't like enough. They essentially said it wasn't as much of a games as service platform like they're trying to go for with Anthem. Sounds like that new Star Wars game that used to be 1313 with Amy Hennig is now going for that games as a service kind of model. But Bethesda, I agree with the Arcane Realm. Bethesda is kicking ass in terms of the games I really like to play.
This next question comes from Just Musicians on YouTube. It says, amazing game. The only complaint I have is it is a bit too short, but the characters were amazing and dynamic. Some scenes made my jaw drop, and the story is amazing. The main complaint people have about this game is the PC version has a few bugs. I actually played all on PC. I noticed a lot of people on like Steam and Twitter have been saying there's a lot of bugs. Maybe I just got lucky, but I don't think I had a single bug the entire game, the entire time I played through it.
Yeah, I can't speak to that. I played all on PS4. I didn't have any bugs at all.
And I'm running on a 970, so it's like it's not even like cutting edge necessarily. So
yeah, I did see a lot of reviews saying that, like user reviews. I don't think I recalled too many critic reviews saying they had bugs. I'm not sure, but that is unfortunate if people did, because I found this game to be pretty clean in general. I don't think I had any problems. But yeah, to speak to this story, again, we're not going to go into spoilers, but there are some scenes that, not to be too hyperbolic, but I was sitting there like, holy shit, this is a really good scene. Like, the comparison to Inglourious Basterds holds up even more with this game, and more than The New Order, just because there are two scenes specifically that stand out in my mind, despite the fact that there are a lot of scenes in this game that aren't just cutscenes. I know some people are criticizing for being like a third of the game is cutscenes, but there are some that are in-game where it just gets you so amped. There's one that's super tense, and you can kind of even feel BJ's anger throughout the scene. If you're watching this, you might know what I'm talking about, the audition. And just throughout that whole scene, I'm like, this writing is like top tier, like Machine Games, Swedish developer. They're nailing this tension in these scenes. It's like, I cannot speak highly enough of the writing and the actual atmosphere and tone that goes into this game.
Yeah, and to sort of speak to people saying that there's too many cutscenes, not enough gameplay, I imagine a lot of those people didn't actually finish it or didn't explore the sub and find out that there's those Enigma codes, which allow you to return to levels and assassinate different targets. There's like easily over a dozen of them. So the gameplay is there, like story-driven gameplay. Sure, you only get 6 hours, but there's also like 3, almost 4 hours of fantastic cutscenes, an excellent story. So that complaint is just dumb, in my opinion. Like, sorry if anyone feels that way in the comments, but I'm just going to say it. I think that is dumb. Like, you clearly didn't give the game to the end or explore everything it has to offer.
Yeah, and then Just Musicians was also saying the game's a bit short. If you go through guns blazing, the easiest difficulty, I can see you finishing in maybe like 7 or 8 hours. I think it took me 10, and I was shooting most people because I recently played Death of the Outsider, and I was doing stealth through that. But yeah, I thought it was perfect length, and it was interesting. I think we've mentioned a Reboot before, but when we interviewed Harvey Smith for that Arcane series we did, speaking of, if you're watching this and you're interested in Bethesda's games like the Arcane realm was, you should go watch this. We did a series on Arcane and Dishonored and Prey.
It's really good.
But Harvey Smith was saying, actually, based on a lot of feedback, and Harvey Smith has been making games back since like Deus Ex, the original one in the 90s. He's been around for a while and knows what he's doing. He was saying, based on focus testing and stuff and just like general sentiment after Dishonored 2, majority of people like when games are shorter now. Like Dishonored 2 was like 18 hours. That game was long for that kind of game where you're taking your time exploring everything. Death of the Outsider was perfect length. It was lean, like Uncharted, Lost Legacy, Hellblade. I know, obviously, we're privileged enough to play a lot of games, so it's nice when we can finish a game and have it in our back pocket and we've experienced it. But there are a lot of people, of course, there are a lot of people that play like 4 games a year, maybe Destiny, maybe Call of Duty, or like FIFA or something. That's awesome too. Like, put the money you want toward the games you want to play. But I personally think that if a game is better off for having ended at a certain spot, then do it. It's like season 7 of The Office. It should have ended there.
Yeah.
But they added another few hours to it. Like,
especially Wolfenstein, something that is so like very well paced.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like waiting 3 hour. I don't want to play through a 3 hour gameplay segment just to get to the next cutscene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm satisfied, I don't want to keep playing for another 4 hours and feeling. It's not even a matter of like my money's worth, because I think that's a whole separate conversation, and I firmly do not believe that if I pay $60, I expect 12 hours. Like that's such a dated way to look at games, because Wolfenstein feels great. It's written well. It's memorable in so many ways. It's presented well. It's just overall the pacing is great. Like I don't go into games anymore and thinking, oh, here's $60. I'm expecting X hours out of this, whether I'm having fun or not. If I got an amazing experience out of 6 hours like I did in Hellblade, as opposed to the experience I got out of The Division, which I've been replaying recently for a future project, like I'm all for that great 6 hour experience over 60 hours. I feel like I kind of wasted, but that's just like, it's up to people to decide what they want. But I think Wolfenstein was great length. Perfect. Okay, cool. Last comment that we picked out this week was from GameSpot. Subaru 1980 said, a very good episode again and very interesting point of view. Some publishers have started a war against story-driven single-player gaming. That's dramatic. Not Bethesda, and I know Machine Games do have plans for a trilogy with Wolfenstein. My question is, what if the new Colossus fails? Just like Prey and The Evil Within 2, could that mean the end of an era for Bethesda Softworks and no sequels for all those great titles?
Nope, they'll release another port of Skyrim and another port of Fallout 4.
They make so much money off the Switch VR Skyrim that are coming out. I would assume that, yeah, Evil Within 2 did not sell well. Death of the Outsider did not sell well. Prey did not sell well, which sucks because that's one of my top 5 games this year, and I think that game is more important than we're like letting on. That game was single-handedly could have brought back immersive sims, but I just don't think there was enough marketing around it to really push it, and I think people weren't really ready for that kind of game.
Yeah, I think to his question too, like those games, I feel like they're kind of like Rockstar in a sense, right? Where they have their big tentpole game, GTA, and then at least in theory, like this was more so last generation, but they released like GTA 4, and then they did a bunch of weird things,
LA Noire
which
and stuff
turned out to be successful, like LA Noire, Red Dead Redemption, which was probably kind of a risk at the time.
Bully's a cult classic now, but at the time,
Bully,
like, who knew what that was? Yeah.
So I kind of think of it like that. Like, sure, these games didn't do well, but I think, you know, we're going to get a Skyrim port. I mean, there's going to be a new Elder Scrolls at some point, maybe a long time from now. And I feel like whatever Bethesda Softworks does, whether that be Fallout, whether that be...
I think it'd be like a New Orleans Fallout is my call next. Like a spin-off, like a la New Vegas.
Or maybe that like sort of space RPG Bethesda game that people have been kind of like...
trademarks and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that'll still probably sell pretty decently.
Yeah. I will say I'm worried for Arcane, for sure. Yeah. Maybe a Dishonored 3, but if you play Death of the Outsider, I don't know how they're going to... like narratively, how do you continue after Death of the Outsider? It's in the title. Like, the Outsider gives you powers. I mean, again, like, I won't spoil that game, but there are a number of ways they could go. But Raph Colantonio left Arcane, and he was one of the of the two-headed dog that was him and Harvey Smith. He's gone now. For now, he's taking a break. I don't know if he's probably not gonna be back at Arcane. Obviously, they have talented people like Ricardo Bear there, and everybody that worked on Dishonored 2 from their office in France. But I am a bit worried, especially you see the trends with loot crates and microtransactions, and EA closing Visceral, who was a great single-player studio, and then you see Dead Space eventually devolve into microtransactions to be kind of reductive. But I don't think we'll see anything more from Prey. I would love to see like a shorter DLC standalone, kind of like Death of the Outsider, but I highly doubt we will.
Yeah, I don't think we will.
But who knows what Arcane's going to do next? Maybe because Evil Within 2 didn't sell well, Prey didn't sell well. Wolfenstein 2, I'm curious to see the numbers. I'm sure it sold better than both of those, maybe combined, but I don't think it's not gonna be gangbusters. I would think, especially because the time it released. It's not really competing with Mario or Assassin's Creed. But again, if you're someone that buys one game in the fall, then you're probably gonna pick Mario or Assassin's Creed, I would imagine, unless you're just super into shooters like we are. But to Subaru 1980's point, I am worried about Bethesda's lineup. They are my favorite publisher in terms of what they decide to fund. And people, we can talk, like I know Tamora in the UK office always says, like, we've had enough of Skyrim. At the same time, if that means we get to see these great creative titles, like that cascading monetary structure where Skyrim will fund everything else, like that makes a lot of money, and I bring Skyrim to everything. Keep updating it, bring Doom, bring Wolfenstein 2 out on other platforms to keep funding these creative endeavors, because Bethesda is one of those publishers that's really pushing this single-player kind of experience that I think a lot of people that watch Reboot, a lot of people that come to GameSpot, and you and I love. I am worried about Bethesda, but I think they'll be all right for a little while.
Yeah, this is kind of a little bit out there, but I think not that Destiny 2's story wasn't good, but I feel like you're definitely giving up something the minute you try to make a games for service game where people are sharing a world. Like Destiny is like, oh, you're the guardian that saves the world, and like, okay, or the universe or whatever, but so is every other person who plays this game. So I think the minute you do that, it kind of it dilutes the single player, and I really hope things don't come to that, and I think Bethesda is kind of on that horse of, I guess, right, I don't know how to say it.
They're kind of like a crusader right
yeah,
now.
they're the what is it,
At the forefront?
at the forefront.
Spearhead?
Yeah. Spearhead.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say.
That's badass. It's weird looking at my top 10 games here, even top 5, like 75% of them were published by Bethesda. Prey, Death of the Outsider, Wolfenstein 2, The Evil Within 2, which surprised the hell out of me. I liked the first game, I didn't love it. This one I loved. Yeah, I'm hoping they can figure something out monetarily, financially, because without them, like you look around at the other big, huge AAA publishers, Nintendo's had an amazing year. This was the year of Nintendo for myself. But I would love to see Bethesda work something out so we don't just have to keep seeing Anthems and Destinies and stuff of that, games as service kind of inclination. Okay, Jake, any other last thoughts about Wolfenstein 2?
Nope, got nothing else.
I don't think we're really set on next episode. We might go back to Assassin's Creed Mario if there's something to talk about there. Assassin's Creed, honestly, I have fallen in love with Assassin's Creed. I've not been shutting up about it. We covered it. You covered it a lot for GameSpot. Everybody else was kind of doing either Mario or Wolfenstein at the time, but I'm very surprised with Assassin's Creed Origins, and I would love to try to talk about it more. So maybe I'll talk about that. But also we have like Call of Duty 2. As of this video, we'll have had it for 2 days, and then on the 12th, I believe, November 12th, we will have our next full episode up on Sunday, and we'll figure out whether we want to talk about Battlefront 2, maybe if we have it by then. But anyways, as always, thank you so much for sending in questions. Just Musicians, The Arcane Realm, and Subaru 1980 via GameSpot or YouTube. We appreciate that. We really like doing these off-week episodes, the Q&As. But yeah, we'll be back next week with a full episode, and we're looking forward to you seeing that. Until then, have a good week.
Thank you.